Hey guys, this is the December 2018 Ask Me Anything stream, the last stream of the year. And I'm ready. Are you guys ready? I've got my coffee, I've got a Moscow mule. Let's answer some questions. I think I'm at the beginning. Let's refresh just in case. Oh wait. Apparently I posted the link. Okay, well. This is so exhausting. The Patreon always does the same to me with the links. It's not important. Questions. Got 68. It's about what we've been averaging lately. Let's see. I don't have any nails on today. I'm just man hands. Ew. I'm not saying all women have to wear nails. Only me. Okay, Carl Hanna says, what is your favorite dinosaur and why is it the T-Rex? I actually don't have a question, just wishing you the best over the winter season. Thanks, Carl. Yeah, I don't really have a favorite dinosaur either. My emotions are not invested in dinosaurs. They may as well be like robots to me, you know? It's like not a real animal. Crystal Gotten says, hi Natalie. Thank you for your excellent content. My question is coming for a place of almost complete ignorance. How does one get into classical music? Is Chopin classical? What is Chopin? How do I get into old instrumental music? Where do I start? I've always been confused when I've tried in the past, and I'm hoping you can nudge me in the right direction. Thanks. Well, Crystal, I guess people use the word classical music to mean just like all the music that was made in Europe from like the Middle Ages until now. Sorry, not till now, but like anything that in the 21st century it's classical if there's like violins and shit. That's, I believe, the official definition. But historically speaking, it's divided into periods. So there's like the medieval period, the Renaissance period. It's obvious when those are. There's what's called the Baroque period, which is like the late 17th, early to mid 18th centuries. There's the classical period. So the Baroque period's like Bach, Handel, Vivaldi, that kind of thing. Then the classical period is like 1750 or so until the early 19th century, and that's like your Mozart, your Haydn. And then there's the Romantic period. That's where Chopin fits into this. That's like the early 19th century to the late 19th century. Chopin, I guess like Brahms, Liszt, and that's Tchaikovsky. Then you have like the modern period, which is like Stravinsky and that kind of stuff. I mean, it depends. Like, I guess if you're looking to get into classical music, try like those videos, like watch those like playlists on YouTube that are like greatest of classical music. Like, just start by listening, see what you like, and then if you like some things more than other things, just pick that and then listen to more stuff by that composer, and then you sort of start getting I would say that like if you're just getting into a thing, wow, this top is coming off. You really like. There's really no point in being like, this is the thing I should like. I should follow like the scholar's opinion about what the correct music to like is. Like, no, like you're only actually gonna do it if you like it. So follow your own just initial taste. Even if your initial taste is terrible, who cares? Start with that and then work from there. Ms. Contrary says, are there any topics in a similar vein of your recent climate change one you wish to tackle? I kind of hope not, because it's not that I think that the climate change video was bad. It's just that I think that it's not really I just don't like I don't think I'm at my strongest when I'm talking about like big like systemic sciencey stuff, because honestly like kind of anyone can talk about that, and like I basically am only contributing like a new style of talking about it, right? So it's like, oh, people don't usually do this kind of video when they're talking about science. Like, that's my only original contribution on those topics. But when it comes to like the transgender stuff, for example, I feel like I have like thoughts. They're not necessarily new thoughts, but like they're my thoughts, and it's like it's a little bit more original in terms of like the content of what I'm contributing, and I have some other videos that are not about being trans also that are, I think, sort of like more like my original ideas, because like I don't have any original ideas about global warming. The scientists have all the ideas and I'm not an expert, so all I can do is like present what the scientists are saying in an original way, and that to me is like a little like it's just not quite as creatively satisfying to me as being like actually original, you know. But that said, I do think that climate change is an important topic, which is why I wanted to do it. But in retrospect, even looking back on it like a few weeks after having finished it, I'm like, why did I do that topic again? I guess it seemed really important to me, but then I'm like, I don't know. I didn't say anything new, you know what I mean? I want to say, I've set the bar for myself like super high, where I want to say a new thing. I don't want to just like be a good presenter of other people's ideas, you know? Okay, Ricardo says, hi Nat, why you gay? Well, the recruiters showed up at my house and I was groomed, but mostly I blame the parents. Alejandro Herrera says, first off, happy holidays, Natalie, in celebration of Marx and Engels getting their own anime where they look like your anime boyfriend. Look it up. Let's do the most fuckable philosophers. Alejandro, have you asked me about fuckable philosophers before? I have a distinct feeling that you've asked me about fuckable philosophers before. Okay. Dividing the Left edition. Who is the most fuckable between Marx, Engels, young Noam Chomsky, bread mom Kropotkin, Max Stirner, and your personal philosophical daddy Wittgenstein? My choice is Wittgenstein, Kropotkin, Marx, Chomsky, Stirner, and finally Engels, mostly because Engels is a boring writer. Yeah, I agree. Wittgenstein is the most fuckable. And then maybe young Noam Chomsky, then Marx. I feel like then Engels. Max Stirner, I don't know. I feel like he'd be a tyrant in bed. I could get into that. I could get into Stirner. We could Stirner. How do you pronounce his name? I don't know. Maybe we should move him up the list. Why don't you make a calendar? Make a calendar, Alejandro. I'd buy it. Jan says, hi mom, you mentioned on Twitter and in interviews that you get a lot of messages from people thanking you for deprogramming them from alt-right beliefs. I was wondering if Kanye West was among the people that reached out to you, because if you are the one that's responsible for showing him the light, then that's hella dope. Also, what's your favorite Kanye West albums? I like My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy and Kids See Ghosts. I love you and happy holidays. Okay, so no, Kanye is not... So far as I know, watch my videos. Someone maybe tweet them at him. I don't know. I don't have a favorite Kanye album. I'm not really super familiar with his music at all. At least not enough to have a favorite album, you know. Okay, Professor Wolin says, hi Natalie, where'd you find the recording of God Save the Queen used at the beginning of the Jordan Peterson video? Shazam doesn't recognize it. Thanks. P.S. Fuck Nietzsche. Happy holidays. I don't remember. I probably got it. I might have got it on like one of the stock music companies. That's what I'd bet. It's probably like Pond 5, like one of those tracks you pay to use it. I think that's where I got it. Otherwise, my other usual sources are like IMSLP. Sometimes has Creative Commons recordings. Okay. I need to remember to stop talking every once in a while, take a little drink. Otherwise, because I talk too fast on these things and then my voice dies. Alright, slow down. Calm down. Kelly Sejo says, what do you think of the materialist theory of gender and its praxis for women's liberation? Sorry, I know you have a lot of questions, but since we're working on expanding the biological absolutist definition of woman, as we should we also socially expand the definition of femininity? Example, a female software engineer. Traditionally, that is a masculine trade. Can the act of being a software engineer ever be feminine? Should we even consider talking about things in those terms, or does femininity and masculinity need to retain a sort of rigidity for pragmatism? P.S. I hope I'm not annoying you on Twitter. I'm that weird gyno girl. I can't go a day without reading or watching something ContraPoints related. Great artists like you give me comfort that there are people who have true empathy in this world. Oh, well, thank you. So I guess my first response to that is actually someone in the comments points out, some like computer programming work was originally done by women. In fact, my grandmother on my mom's side was in like the 50s and 60s. She worked on computers. But I think that stuff like that is highly, highly socially constructed, right? Like if you talk to like the intellectual dark web people like Jordan Peterson and so on, like they like to go on about how like the biological genetic differences between men and women are the reason for the different careers. And like in some cases it's probably true that yes, there's a reason why in most societies men are the soldiers, but in the case of like software engineers, it's absolutely nothing to do with I would think not to do with biological gender. I guess the Jordan Peterson argument is that like, what is his argument? Women are more interested in aesthetics and men are more interested in objects. So men do object careers and women do people careers or something like that. Maybe a little bit, but like, I don't think that's as strong enough. You know what I mean? It has to do with the way a career is, so much of the way a career is framed. Because like, doesn't computer or software or whatever, isn't there an element of aesthetics in that? I'm sure there is somewhere, right? Like there's arguably an element of aesthetics in mathematics. Like I don't know, it's just, I think that, you know, we think of, one of the reasons we think of these careers as being like male or female is just literally we associate the career with the group of people who currently does it the most. So we assume that software engineering is this like nerdy super male thing, but I think that's maybe just a product of like the people who do it, like on average, you know. So I think that I just think that yes, we should, in short, yes, we should absolutely expand socially the definition of femininity, or you know, that's a complicated thing that I can't answer in one question answer, but the short answer to that is that I agree with what you're saying. Yes. Okay, so Lugnut92. So how was the watermelon? Obviously, neither you nor Lindsay died. Hope you're having a happy end of year time. Thank you. Well, you're referring to the stream we did for Hank Green, where we both, actually only I ate a bite of this rancid watermelon for my last video. It was bad. I didn't eat very much of it, but I was not sick or anything, so I guess we'll call that a win. Cuttlefish says, hi Natalie. If you're comfortable talking about it, I was curious if you've had any positive drug experiences that have helped you better understand your gender/sexual identity. Hopefully they weren't all like the bathroom scene in that one video. Geez, that was too real. No worries if you're not super comfortable talking about that sort of thing on stream. So I've had some drug experiences in my life. Some of them have been positive, but I've never really had a major gender revelation of any kind under the, like, you know, with the assistance of drugs. Like, I've had people ask me this question a lot, like, did you like ever like were you on acid and you realize that you're really a woman and blah, blah, blah. Like, absolutely not. Like my gender realizations have come like over like long periods of like you know, sober thinking and drunk thinking too, but you know, it's really, to me, this was not some kind of psychedelic revelation. I think there's like kind of two stories that people want you to tell about a gender transition. One of them is that you always knew. You know, oh, I knew since I was a tiny little baby that I was always meant to be in the different body of the but, and then the other story is like, I didn't know, and then suddenly like a lightning bolt came out of the clouds and said, thou art woman. Well, the reality for me is that neither of those things is true. It's actually way more boring than that. Like, just over the course of about a decade, I just slowly, you know, there are these sort of issues that in my life and that I was having that kind of like very gradually over time, without any kind of like epiphany of, you know, divine intervention or psychedelic realization. I just kind of like you know. It became more and more apparent very gradually. And I mean, even when I first started transitioning, I was kind of like, am I really a woman? Like, what? Like, am I just taking, why am I taking these hormones? You know, but I liked the hormones so much that I was like, well, I'm going to keep taking them because I like what this is doing. And then, you know, I started passing, and one day it's just kind of like, you know, I'm basically a woman. Like, and then you start thinking of yourself as a woman, and then you just get used to the idea, and then it's boring. So that's the boring reality, is that it happens very slowly. And it's like to me, going from being a man to being a woman, it's like going from being a girl to being a woman. Like, it's not something that happens in a moment. It's something that happens gradually over a series of accumulated experiences. So hopefully that answers your question. Christopher J. Botaro says, "Hi, I found your channel via my massive distaste for Jordan Peterson. Thanks for that video. Can you do one on Jesse Lee Peterson or debate him on his show? I've seen some other people I follow on YouTube debate him, and it's hilarious and really sad and frustrating and cringy, but still lots of humor to be had. Either way, thanks for your videos." You are welcome, my dear. I don't know who Jesse Lee Peterson is. Is this someone I should be aware of? Leave a comment below telling me if I should know who Jesse Lee Peterson is. Is this someone related to Jordan Peterson? I don't really do debates anymore, but I should probably know who that is if they're at least half the source of entertainment that Jordan has been for me. Someone in the chat says it's his daughter. Oh, the meat woman. Ah, yes. I know about the meat woman. The beef diet. Yeah. No, I'm not gonna debate her. But I do think she's funny. Yeah. Kind of dangerous, really, to be suggesting that people do like highly unscientific diets. I hate streaming without my nails on. Like, if I hold, like, ew, it's man hand. Ugh. It's insanity. I know. Most of the things I think are not rational. Don't like people. I know it's a problem because like people watch my videos and then they're like, oh, she says that she's the man if she's not wearing nails. That means she thinks that. And it doesn't mean I think anything. It means I'm like, I have a lot of demons in my head. Matthew Chapin says, "Hi, Natalie. If this is a dumb, indelicate cis question, just flap your hand at the screen and I'll fly away on my profane little monkey wings. But I was watching some old school videos and N seems like such a sweet kid and I wonder what's become. If the cast-off trans animus can be rehabilitated to a psychologically/spiritually supportive role, subspecies eternitatis, a devil turned bodhisattva, or if it's just always this haunting ghost, and if so, what does that do to the continuity of self? A little candle for your ladyship's health and continuity at a Kozenji temple the other day. Happy New Year." Well, I think that at the moment, I mean, my past self is quite honestly a nightmare ghost that I can't stand to watch my old videos. I can't stand to watch my videos at all. I am just haunted by like the person I used to be. I hate it. I feel completely disconnected from it. I feel this like awful like fracturing of my own identity that's like really difficult to reconcile with myself some of the time, and it's actually like a source of like real like psychological difficulty for me. So it's something I think I want to work on, and I'm hoping that as I sort of get a little bit more time and distance from you know the beginning of my transition, this will get easier. And I think that I kind of like the way you put it actually about it, like the notion of a like animus rehabilitated as in a psychologically supportive role, because I would like someday to have some kind of like reconciliation with my past and like the person I used to be. I would. But I'm far away from that now. Like I still really struggle with it. But I do think it would be psychologically beneficial to come to a moment where I can like where reflecting on my past can be maybe somehow a source of comfort instead of like pain. Okay. The ghost of your favorite Tumblr porn blog, Wednesday La Rocha. What a great name. Hey Nat, I have a bone to pick with you, fam. So I read your interview in The Economist, and agreed with most of what you had to say per usual, but I'm over this. The left are a bunch of inscrutable, self-eating gatekeepers narrative you ceded to at the beginning. I understand you wanting to distinguish yourself from other lefties as a way to garner favor among more centrist types so you can reach them, but is it really necessary to repeat the right's bullshit exaggerations of us just to do that? I mean, is there no other way to make the extremely basic point that the left needs to improve its rhetoric without painting us as a bunch of alienating and tribal purists? A characterization that I don't think is true, broadly speaking. Apologies if it's coming off as a sibilant bitch. I don't mean to. You don't need to apologize for asking a question. To give you my honest answer, I think that maybe we disagree about how bad things are on the left. Because to me, I didn't say, like, what I said about the left in that interview, I wasn't pandering to centrists specifically. Like, I really do believe that, like, that this is like a real and a massive problem, and something that's often throughout the last like decade of my life been an obstacle to me, wanting to have anything to do with leftist politics. But it is, as you say, a trope, a right-wing trope. And I am, I think in that interview, I did immediately, after saying that, I did immediately step back and be like, I have to be careful about talking about this because people do use it as an excuse. And it's actually the inability of left-wing people to effectively recruit is used itself as a right-wing recruitment tactic in a sense. So I think that I don't know. It's a balance I try to strike. I think a lot of people have criticized me for punching left, as they say, too much on YouTube. And so I think I'm going to try to... I do think I've done a lot of that. Maybe a little too much of that. And I also think I'm kind of getting bored of it. So, and what's more, I think I'm really at my best when I keep the bigots front and center, which sounds paradoxical, but I think like most people in the world are not good at that many things, and I'm no exception. And I think like where I really excel is when I'm like head to head in this metaphorical space of the video, or the sort of semi-fictional space of the video, when I'm head to head with like absolutely horrible people. And, you know, I think that's what I'm gonna try to do. More videos about bigots. That's where I shine. I'm not necessarily good at anything else. And the lucky thing for me is that the Jordan Petersons and Ben Shapiros of the world, they're never going to stop coming. There's an endless supply of fuckboys out there. So I should have a long career ahead of me if I keep that focus. Okay, let's take a quick moment. Okay, Saminda says, "Hi Natalie, greetings from Sri Lanka. Love your content." Wow, that's a long way from where I am. There's been a lot of progress in the West with regards to LGBTQ equality in comparison to South Asian countries. I doubt gay marriage will be legalized in my country for the foreseeable future. This is not a cultural thing, as we had no laws against homosexuality before being colonized by the British, but we have stuck with their stupid Victorian laws even though we've been independent for over 70 years. These laws have not affected me personally as a straight man, but some of my friends did not come out until they left the country. My question is, how can we speed things up in developing countries and help the LGBTQ communities in these countries gain the same rights as everyone else? Thank you for your videos. Happy holidays. Wow. I feel that I ought to be asking you that question, since I do not know much about Sri Lankan politics. And so I sort of in a way feel that I actually am very reticent often to discuss LGBT issues about other countries, especially countries that have that history of Western imperialism, precisely because I know that in those countries, a lot of times like LGBTQ activism is presented by its opponents as being this like Western culturally imperialistic kind of imposition, which, as you say, in a lot of cases it really isn't. Like, it's not. Like, in fact, it's the homophobia that was the imperial imposition. But, you know, I just don't want to give fodder to the people who will say like these like white Western like gay activists are trying to force us to abandon our culture and adopt their degenerate lifestyle or whatever. Like, I you know, so I don't know. I actually don't know what I can do, if anything, about, you know, developing countries and gay rights. I'm still kind of like focusing on like what I can do to help in my own country. But if anyone has any suggestions on how that could, you know, I'm certainly open to them. So let me know if there's more. If you ever think there's more I can do, because I would like to do whatever I can. Ed Zarin says, "Hi Natalie, do you have any personal insights into the phenomena of the cult of personality or worship of celebrity in our culture? Seems like the notion of infatuation is reaching some new level of sociological significance. People come to these pseudo relationships with their media personalities and objectifications." Well, I think that this has always been a thing, right? I think that when the Beatles showed up in America in 1963 or 64, you know, a lot of women in this country basically were in love with them or whatever, like this parasocial kind of thing. So I think as long as there's been celebrities, there's been this kind of thing, right? Like, my colleague PhilosophyTube just did this video about the queen of his country and people's like close relationship feelings for the queen. Like, I'm sure that ancient monarchs had the same thing. Caesar and Genghis Khan and so on. Their subjects, no doubt, had some kind of feelings towards them. I do think that a kind of strange thing that's happening now is that a lot of the people who are like famous, like on YouTube, are just like kind of regular people. And like in the past, I think if you were famous, you were kind of like, there were certain like privileges that came with that, like a kind of protection, right? Like if you're conventionally like a Hollywood celebrity, right? They are in their own like houses, like up in, you know, the hills above LA, and like they're not they have bodyguards and stuff, where I don't like, I probably should have a bodyguard, but I don't. And like, I don't know. It's just weird. Like, it's just weird to have people like, cause like people recognize me in public pretty often, and like a lot of them obviously like feel like they have this like, you know, really intimate awareness of who I am and like how you know, what my life is, which in a sense they do, and in a sense they don't. So, I think it's just a product of the technology, like of the media that we have, right? Like, I think that, you know, watching someone on a screen basically gives you the illusion that you know them. Even if you're a very well-adjusted person, like these sort of feelings kind of gestate. And I don't have it's, as Lindsay Ellis would say, I'm not saying thing bad, I'm just saying thing exists, and it is something I do think about. It sure does exist. Avi Finkel says, "How did it feel to be in The Economist?" Fine. I mean, to me, there was a kind of like, there was a sense of like exuberance that I had about like, haha, because The Economist is very like, it's very much not a leftist magazine. So the fact that I was in The Economist is like, it's just a mark of like having an influence beyond your circle, which is something that I try to do. And, you know, yeah, they use that weird title, and they use the kind of strange picture of me as the like crazy clown from the from the pronouns videos. So I was a little like, well, you're just making me look like a queer crazy person to your audience, but like, who cares? Sometimes like sometimes them making you look like a nutter is actually like good in terms of getting attention for you. And then if they read the article, I think I don't come across as crazy. So, you know, maybe it's fine. Okay, Emma Kratova says, hello, hope you're doing well. Thank you. I'm doing pretty good. Two things. Any advice for talking to people in post-USSR countries about socialism and communism, since these words still have a meaning from quite recent era attached to them, but they outright reject them? Any substitute words to use to convey these ideas to people? Also, could you say, Emma is such a daddy in your sexy voice? Thank you. Is it Emma or Emma? Let's assume it's Emma. Emma is such a daddy. Yeah, I found that if you want to have the anti-capitalist conversation with those people, like those are some of the most difficult audience to talk to about it, because they're like, I fucking lived through communism, it was terrible, don't you talk to me about how, you know. So I would say that, like, I would focus the conversation not on, like, definitely don't say the word communism unless you are. I'm not a communist, but if you're a communist, I guess you might have to say it. But I would say that, like, focusing on, well, look, just because the USSR was bad doesn't mean that capitalism's good. And, like, which is clearly true. So I would say that that's probably the rhetorical way to go, right? Maybe lean on anti-American prejudice. That's probably, a way in. Watching the chat because I said I'm not a communist, and it was me like, oh no, here we go. Centrist liberal confirmed. Neoliberal tanky. Yeah. Okay. Gigratu says, oh yay, people are telling me how to pronounce their names in their comments now. That's helpful. Hey Natalie, your content is amazing and has expanded many of my friends and my minds. However, I have a question about music. Let's say I've bought everything Zoe Blade makes and learned about Home from a previous AMA. Anything else you would recommend in that vein? Turns out that sort of music makes a perfect background beat when playing board games for hours. Thanks. Wow. If you're looking for music, I mean, I can just tell you what for board games for hours, watch lo-fi hip-hop chill playlists on YouTube. Just do a YouTube search for like lo-fi chill, and a bunch of like live streams will come up that will basically keep you in a chill mood for eternity. So you could do that. Okay, let's see. Plato Prunes says, hi Natalie, glad to take part in my first Q&A and sorry for my funny English. What do you think is the biggest limit of the specific brand of social activism flourished in the last few years on internet, mainly in the US? I'm interested as a European because I think we'll keep importing models for the foreseeable future, for good and for bad. This brand of activism is also strongly marketable. No one should take it as a defense. I have a theory, but I want to hear it from you. P.S. You're lovely. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Okay, what was the question? What is the biggest limit on the social activism flourishing in the last few years? Okay, I'm not sure which activism that you're talking about, but I'm guessing that what you're talking about is like the kind of like YouTube scene that I'm a part of, which you call marketable, which it does indeed seem to be in some sense. So what I think is the limit of it, well, at the moment the limit of it is that it's really not attached to conventional politics in any way. Like, it's basically what I think what I'm doing is really just public opinion. And that's a gigantic, right? Because changing opinions I think it's the most important thing. I think if you have like people on your side, that's the main thing. Then it's a matter of overcoming the structures that are an obstacle to democracy. But if you basically believe in democracy, which I think I do, then yeah, I mean that's the problem is that the limit on it is that I have no ability to overcome the structures of our society. So, for example, do I know how to get someone elected in a country where you need a lot of money to get elected? Not really. And I think that, you know, is this actually going to translate into electoral results? I don't know. I hope so, but I, God, I just wish that we, in the U.S., see, if you have a candidate that people on social media can kind of get behind, I think like millennials could really make the world better. But there is a kind of like disconnect, right, between the like, because here's the thing, like even the people who are like, oh, anti-electoral politics, smash, smash, smash. I'm seeing this over in the chat. No one actually smashes anything. They just say the word smash, you know. And it's I think it's just kind of a general issue is that, you know, we just talk a lot and there's not a lot of action attached to it. So that I think is a problem. That's the limitation. I'm gonna reapply lipstick. I'm gonna try to do this in the. There's no mirror, so I'm just like looking at myself in the monitor. I don't usually wear red lipstick, but I'm doing this to impress a boy who likes it. Okay, that's actually true. Dimphnomaniac says, the main reason I managed to avoid going full TERF was I realized that their definition of womanhood sounded exactly like the conservative Catholic version. Do you think they have just internalized those views so strongly that they can't get away from them, or is there something else going on? And do you think the city of Baltimore has a legal case against 4chan for ruining Hun? I guess I think that it depends on which TERFs we're talking about. I think there are TERFs who basically are just conservatives in terms of their sentiment with respect to gender, and like the feminism is very much a kind of framing device for reactionary ideas. I also think there's another group of TERFs who like really do have on some level a radical feminist politics, but they just like they think trans women are men and so they hate us. So I think there's sort of both elements. And sometimes what you're saying is definitely true. Sometimes it's like literally just like a repackaging of what is essentially Christian, like conservative, reactionary politics. And then on the other hand, there's this, what I think is, you know, I don't know, like this radical feminist thing, like where does their idea that women are biological? Well, I think it can come from the kind of like, there was an earlier question for like the materialist feminism. Like there's a reading of like Engels that is kind of like TERF friendly, right? That, oh, what gender is like the response to the, you know, human like reproductive roles. And so I want to do a future video about this, because I think that I have thoughts about it, and like what I won't try to answer that now, but I think that there's basically what I'm just saying is that not all of it comes from like really reactionary ideas. Like there's also like a sort of misunderstanding of, or I think it's just a bad understanding of like what are sort of progressive or radical ideas of gender. So it can come from either source. Do I think the city of Baltimore has a legal case against 4chan? Let's ask the owners of Cafe Hun. I don't think there's a legal case now. Let's see. Jessica Loganov says, oh, by the way, guys, Theron was visiting me and I took her to Cafe Hun. So we were two Huns in Cafe Hun. Okay, Jessica Loganov says, thank you for the apocalypse. When writing it, what steps did you take to put yourself in the mindset of a climate change denier? I would say that it's basically, when I was going to write the climate change denier, I was like, because there's some versions of climate change denial that I just don't sympathize with at all, but I tried to write the climate change denier as like someone who's like, you know, their denial doesn't come from some kind of like, you know, like divine intervention belief that the Lord will provide and save us from global warming or anything like that. They're just really selfish and lazy, and I can relate to being selfish and lazy. And so Basically, I just tried to like ramp up my own selfishness and laziness and make that into a character, and that's the denial character, right? The one who just like I just don't want to think about it. Who cares? What do you want me to do? Get out of the bath? Fuck that. Like that, I can sympathize with that. I mean, I think it's bad, but like I can empathize with it anyway. One more. Have you considered a follow-up to your What's Wrong with Capitalism series called What's Wrong with Socialism? Just trying to get you into trouble. Jessica, stop trying to get me into trouble. Maggie's daddy. Love your caricature of a champagne socialist in the apocalypse. You call out for Antoine, who never answers. Is Antoine a no-show because he's none other than Antoine Lavoisier, the aristocratic daddy of modern chemistry, humanitarian scientist convicted of false charges and executed during the Reign of Terror? That's an interesting theory. I have no official position. I think what I was thinking of is that that character, the champagne character, her name is Marie in the script. So Marie Antoine, like Marie Antoinette. I think that's what I was thinking. But really, I just thought it sounded funny. But I'm not saying your interpretation's wrong. I'm just saying that I hadn't thought of it till now. Charlotte Van Pettigem. I don't know how to words. Hey Nat, I recently had VFS, and while I'm very happy about it, it also kind of made me sad that being trans means that I have to get all these surgeries. Not that I think people have to get surgeries if they're trans, but for me they are important. Luckily, I live in a country with socialized healthcare, so costs are low and my workplace is very accommodating. But still, surgery was stressful and I couldn't talk for a while, which was kind of lonely. I just don't know how to deal with the fact that there are more surgeries to come, which will be even worse to recover from. Any advice? Well, my dear, I am kind of the same boat, because for me, the worst of it is ahead too. Like, I haven't really had surgeries yet, apart from some hair grafts that have not really grown in yet. They're just starting to grow in, actually. I've got like pimples all over my temples from where the hairs are starting to grow in. But, yeah, I have the surgery ahead of me too. I do have complicated feelings about it too. And I think what I will say though is that I think the voice feminization surgery, I think that's especially difficult. I don't plan to do that myself. And I think that the voice, like not being able to speak for a long time after surgery, that is especially hard. And I think that depending on what else you're planning, if you're doing FFS, the first week after FFS is garbage from what I've been told, but after that it gets better quickly, and you can, so I think that's, I'm not, that's not something I would worry so much about. If you're having genital reassignment, that is a massive surgery with a nightmare recovery. Not a nightmare, but like, with it, it's a long recovery. And that I do kind of dread myself, but I think that at least it's kind of about all the damage is done. All the damage is done to a part of my body that I don't identify that much with in the first place. So like from the waist up, I'm fine, and like that to me means I can kind of like sit in bed, take painkillers, and like try to work on something or watch movies or like read a book. So I don't know. I guess we'll learn how to deal with it together. Because you've had more surgery than I have at this point, so you tell me. Okay, Moonmoth says, may the season's candlelight be all sparkly and bright and hiccupy joyful. Mon ami falls upside down from drinking a Manhattan with giggles and laughter emanating from the floor. Thank you, Moonmoth. That's not a question, but love you too. Oh my god, just look at the chat. Someone says, morphine live stream. Oh my god. We should have a morphine live stream. That's true. That would be fun. Oh my god, someone in the chat says, you did GRS and boobs at the same time. Girl, that's... yeah, that's a lot of surgery. Kira Arbor says, is the fried chicken at Royal Farms gas stations actually any good, or am I just garbage? Sheets or Wawa? As a celebrity, do you prefer to date someone who's also a public figure, or would you prefer a partner or partners who are average citizens? Well, I like the chicken at Royal Farms, although my favorite fried chicken is the spicy chicken at Popeyes. And I try not to eat so much, I try not to eat so much fried chicken because it's not very good for me, but I do like it. I don't know. I guess Wawa. I've never really been to Sheets. Do I as a celebrity? Do I count as a celebrity? Do I prefer to date someone who's a public figure? Oh no, it's much better to date someone who isn't a public figure. I'll leave it at that. The one advantage of dating someone who's a public figure is that you at least sort of understand with each other the problems of being a public figure. So I do like that aspect, but on average, I'd say things are easier if you date someone who's not a public figure. Vaporwave Dashing says, yay, Natalie, hope you had a great holiday season. My question is, how should we deal with people who say technically true but misleading statements? You basically have to either A, concede the fact and try to clarify what it's meaning, why it's misleading, or B, deny up front that it's true, explain why it's misleading, and then concede that it's technically true at the end. Neither option's perfect from an uninitiated centrist optics standpoint because you have to either give them credit they don't deserve or temporarily accuse them of lying when they technically didn't. Is there a better option of these two, or is there a better third option in your opinion? Thank you. Here's to hoping that 2019 is slightly less hellish. Here's to hoping. So, I guess the best is if you're making a video essay or something, you can just explain everything that you just explained. You can explain how their argument's working, why it's working, and blah blah blah. If you're doing a debate or something, you can't really do that. So in the debate context, I would say probably what's best, if you can try to, I would say in some ways the best thing to do is to be like, why are you even bringing this up? Aren't you bringing this up to do that? But that can look like you're trying to evade what they're saying. So it's tough. I agree it's a very sneaky tactic that's like it is genuinely hard to deal with. I don't have the perfect answer. I'm not the greatest debater, but I think that it's better not to deny the fact because being just wrong is always a bad look. So I would say with those two options, if you have to choose one, I would say that it's probably better to clarify why the fact is misleading or why it's being raised in a kind of bad faith way. Or you can just call them a cuck. Okay. Take a break. I'm out of breath at the end of every question. I need to give myself permission to take breaks between questions, to take a sip of my coffee, and you guys just have to deal with that, okay? Listen to the music. It's very porny. Okay. Bill Conrad says, hey Ms. Pois, loved your last video, you blinded me with science. I'm considering starting a channel where I explain Marx in a language liberals speak, i.e. appropriating Harry Potter to radicalize the libs. I think that sort of thing would be better for base building than Left Book's usual theory-centered book club / circle jerk strategy. It would also help me out of my 18-month-long tabby phase where I do all the classic Left Book bullshit. As a pro, do you have any advice for trans aspiring YouTubers? P.S. I don't know if the internet shipping you and Ollie makes you uncomfortable, but if so, we'll stop. Okay, the left book marks, yeah. So I think that's a good idea for a channel. I think that there's a reason, like I don't want to disparage like I know people always come to me for like the philosophy bashing, theory bashing stuff. Like I don't want to disparage reading. It's good to read, but demanding that other people read can be really ineffective, I think, and not super great thing to do. So making content that's video, that's accessible, I think that's great. And sorry, I have to sneeze. Great. So ridiculous. Okay. Do I have any advice for trans aspiring YouTubers? Oh God. By trans aspiring, you mean you want to transition. So I'm not gonna say don't do it, but like I personally like have like all these awful feelings about the fact that my pre-transition shit is still on YouTube. So like in a way, my first urge is to be like, transition first, then make a channel. Don't make a channel before you transition. Like, but I don't know, like in a sense that did work for me, right? Like even though I complain about it and it's like agony now, like I mean, it funded my transition, didn't it? So I'm not going to tell you not to do it because in a sense it did work for me. And like, but you know, definitely consider that like stuff you put on the internet stays on the internet forever. Maybe other people feel a little more comfortable with their pre-transition stuff than I do. So maybe you won't care so much, but personally it bothers me. It depends what kind of content you want to make. I mean, I guess maybe the way you present yourself, just keep in mind that you might transition. So you might want to start planting that narrative now before, you know, because then like a lot of people, when you come out as trans online, will accuse you of not really being trans. So you can maybe put in references to how terribly dysphoric you are. Okay. Giving kind of shitlordy advice tonight, my god. Alessandro Vicarelli Poro says, Dear Natalie, I noticed that in some of your videos you explicitly declare yourself to have abandoned academia and philosophical thought in general. However, as I'm sure many others have pointed out, you seem to me, another philosophical lever, to be doing philosophy in a very true sense, using a new medium to open up philosophical questions, using a dialectical methodology, and so on and so forth. I want to ask you if you could elaborate on your relationship in your theoretical conception between the classic or traditional way we conceive philosophy, the media you chose, and the object of speculation itself, YouTube and the leftist agenda, we could say. Furthermore, if I may be so bold to ask you something else, while watching your videos, I often had the impression that you were deeply influenced by Hegel's philosophy. My suspicions were kind of confirmed by listening to a podcast where you do a passing reference to the phrenology. But unfortunately, the interviewer cut you short. I was curious to ask, what are your influences from Hegel, and especially how would you frame such a relationship in contrast to a certain leftist interpretation of Hegel that is becoming widespread in the US? I'm referring to Slavoj Žižek. I figure that you may have some closeness in the way of framing negativity and the idea of system, but that you would be mostly antagonistic towards him. But I don't know, so that's why I ask you. Thank you for all the work, and sorry for the philosophically boring questions. With love and admiration, Alessandro. Well, I have read, Alessandro, at one time, a lot of Hegel. I didn't like it because I thought it was like the most boring possible thing to read. Has it influenced me in some way? Probably. I don't have any insight into the way that is, though. So you tell me how it's influenced me, honestly. Like, I don't know. I don't know. I don't think of it this kind of thing. So, but you know, does reading a bunch of something influence you subconsciously? Probably it does. As for, am I doing philosophy still? Yeah, I guess I kind of am. I don't like to claim that I'm doing philosophy, like, because I think that's like really pretentious to be like, I'm a philosopher on YouTube. But like, if other people will tell me that I'm doing philosophy, that's okay. You guys, it's like, you know, it's like saying that you're beautiful. You guys can tell me I'm beautiful. I can't say that I'm beautiful. Tell me I'm pretty. P.S. As an Italian and a Prosecco hater, I loved you to death when you mentioned Prosecco as Italian piss water or something. Please diss more of my country. I'm actually, yeah, that's, I'm glad you liked that. I actually do drink Prosecco pretty often. So, but hating on it is funny to me. I enjoy drinking dishwater, so, you know. Taj Mahal says, you are cool and give me hope that I can have a happy life. I am glad. Thanks. I hope you have a happy life. Apples to apples, dust to dust. Oh, what a great name. Says, Dear Natalie, thanks so much for doing what you do. It's been said before, but you're far and away my favorite YouTube creator. Oh, thank you. Keep serving up glamorous looks and bringing more centrist laughter, please. Last AMA, you mentioned that you were reading the books of JP and some of the other people whom star bad. Having read a bit of the rules myself, why do you subject yourself to this? It seemed pretty trash to me. Also, would you tell about your most far out psychedelic experience? I subject myself to it really at this point primarily for the purpose of research, for like for making videos. I have to know what these people are saying, and so I'm kind of like looking for like response fodder. I don't read Jordan Peterson for fun, that's for sure. I haven't been reading Jordan Peterson lately. Would I tell you about my most far out psychedelic experience? Let me think. I once did a bunch of mushrooms on a goat farm. And the first thing that happened after I ate the mushrooms and started tripping was that these guys dumped an entire gasoline container of diesel fuel onto a mattress, lit a flaming arrow, and fired out of a bow and arrow the arrow into the mattress, causing it to light up the entire forest in this giant blaze. Which kind of set the tone for this trip, where I ended up in a barn, like this dark barn lit by candles, and there were these horrible goats around me looking at me with their satanic eyes, like man, like doing their horrible bleeding, and I was like not feeling it at all. That was not a good night. But it's such a good story that like, it's not that good a story, but it's like, it's amusing enough that I was like trapped in a barn with goats on mushrooms that it's kind of worth it now. But at the time I was not having fun. Oh my god, yeah, when I saw The Witch and there was that creepy goat, I was like, this is legitimately a flashback. Brian Kenny says, Dear Natalie, after discovering your work through Lindsay Ellis, you've easily risen to become one of my favorite video essayists. My question is, what other force of nature do you consider to be almost as inherently erotic as the sea? Well, that's easy. Thunderstorms. Thunderstorms are so erotic. Like literally, if it's like in Baltimore at summer, it gets very, very humid, and there's these like big, ferocious thunderstorms sometimes, and it's like every time there's one of those out, like you feel this thunder like shake the ground, and it's like, oh, it's so hot, mommy. Like it's so hot. Like, of course, the most erotic possible thing is thunderstorms at sea. So when I was growing up, used to go to the Outer Banks in North Carolina, and those beaches have like these like crazy thunderstorms in the summer, and like watching the entire like sky over the ocean just like shattered by these like giant lightning strikes, and like it's super hot. It's so hot. What is this stream? I'm kind of, guys, why am I drunk? I've become a real lightweight. I don't drink anymore. I will say that like I don't know if it's transitioning or just getting popular on YouTube, but probably some combination of the two, has like cured my alcoholism. And now I'm a lightweight. Like this is one Moscow Mule that I'm drinking, and I'm like, guys, let me tell you about this time I took mushrooms at a bar. like this is like one drink in, and I'm like acting foolish. I love that. I love not being an alcoholic. It's so great. Okay, coffee. Alice says, hi, Natalie. Over the past few months, Lindsay, Ollie, and Shannon, Strucci Movies, have made videos on audience-creator relationships, and I was wondering about your perspective. Their videos helped me figure out that I was part of the reason, I was started supporting you on Patreon is that I need more smart and stylish trans women in my life. Realizing this has made me devote more time to building IRL trans friendships. I was wondering how you feel about patrons who support you for reasons like this. I mean, I think that for me, part of the gig, as it were, of being a YouTuber is that a lot of your supporters feel like they're getting some kind of social support from you. So that's just kind of like, that's why I do these streams, you know, like that's why I interact with fans at all, is that like other people get something out of it. And I am totally fine with that as long as it doesn't like cross a line. And usually it doesn't. I fortunately have not had too many problems with like line crossing. It happens occasionally, but like as long as you're aware on some level that this is like, you know, it's a relationship that is kind of mediated by the internet, and so we don't really know each other, but like I don't have any problem. I'm glad that people get something out of my work, you know. I'm glad that people still like after all the shit I've done, still like me enough that they want to like be close to me, and even like in sort of like artificial internet space. Skibbity Boo says, what are your plans for the new year? Make videos, get plastic surgery. That's about it. That's what I'm looking at for 2019. Okay, guys, I had to pee, so I'm gonna go do that, and I'm gonna get more coffee and some water, and not get any more booze because I'm getting a little like. I had one drink. It's unbelievable. Unbelievable. I used to be such a heavyweight. All right, I'll be right back. Okay. Whew. I've got my coffee. Are you guys posting bread? I've got my water. All right, let's get to work. Rachel Domagalski says, something I've noticed is that cis people's views on trans people dating, disclosure, discussions, etc., in the relatively rare times a trans woman wins an athletic competition, see Rachel McKinnon winning a cycling competition nobody would have cared about if she was cis, essentially serve as a way to expose how cis people that are otherwise tolerant, even sometimes supportive, actually view trans people deep down. What's the best way at reaching out to these people and possibly getting them to rethink their views? Also, have you ever watched roller derby? It's probably the most inclusive sport for trans people. Okay, yeah, so with respect to the dating conversation, yeah, I've been doing a lot of thought lately about how suddenly, like, people, exactly what you're saying. The way people say, like, oh, I support trans people. I'm not transphobic. Sure, I guess I think trans women are women. But then, you know, if a man is dating a trans woman, suddenly they go, oh, I didn't know you were into that sort of thing. Like, what? like it's amazing how, like, they, you know, they say, like, I think trans women are women, but... You know, and what comes next is like a thing that shows they clearly don't think trans women are women. So, you know, I think with dating, it's especially like egregious. The sports thing, to be honest, I don't know anything about trans people in sports. I don't know anything about sports in general. And I probably shouldn't admit this, but my initial intuitions, like, about trans people in sports are, I think, the transphobic ones. I'm like, wait, why should because so here's the thing, I don't know anything about trans people in sports, so part of me is like, wait, why are trans women doing women's sports? But maybe I'm sure that's wrong because other trans people tell me that it's wrong, and I haven't looked into it at all, so I'm sure that I'm wrong. But I think oh, this is bad. This is so bad. Because I think because I think that I am like I don't know. It seems to me that like some sports, like being assigned male at birth would give you an advantage, but like I don't know. Like I don't know how the body works. I don't know how sports work. Like okay, so I have not watched roller derby, but I know a lot of trans people who do it. So, if I were into sports, I might do that. But as it is, I obviously prefer to like move as little as possible. Okay, now that I'm canceled. Oh, sorry, hold on. I saw someone in the like chat. Yeah, someone who got blockers at a young age. There are trans women like Kim Petras who, like, if you started like puberty blockers like age 12, like there's really like no significant physical difference between them and a cis woman. So absolutely they should be doing women's sports. Maybe there's good arguments why other trans women should be able to compete with cis women too and other sports, but I just don't know. I don't know what I'm talking about, so don't listen to any of the words I'm saying. I do like Kim Petras, yeah. I like her music. I've been listening to Sophie too. I've been so good on listening to trans music lately. Okay. La Teta Antifascista. Hello, Natalie. I'm rating you from Chile, South America. One of the things I find more interesting about your videos is the similarity of the topics you discuss with the things going on here. Think of Bolsonaro as an example. Feminism against fascism seems to be what's going on right now. I wouldn't say worldwide, but I'm not sure. But certainly in countries like Argentina, Chile, Uruguay, Brazil. My question is internationalism still a valid goal on the left? If it's not proletarian, world revolution, what is it that we were fighting for? How can South and North fight alongside? How do we connect? Do you see us over there? Thank you very much. Yeah, so this is something I started really thinking about when Bolsonaro was elected, and I was like, shit, like, this is, I mean, it's like Trump but worse, basically, like, and it's, I mean, a lot of people from Brazil got in touch with me when that happened, because to them, it just reminded them of everything I'd been talking about on YouTube for 2 years. So do I think that there's like these similarities across the world? Absolutely, there seem to be. I mean, it's really, what's one of the really scary things right now is that it's not just like the United States, like it's Europe, it's South America, it's like across the world there's this increase in like authoritarianism, and I don't like that. I don't care for it. And do I think that there is a case to be made for international resistance? Absolutely. So I don't know. This is something I'm not sure how to be useful this way, because I want to make sure that it's internationalism and not just like, America centrism, because I know I make content about America, and I don't think that probably doesn't fully represent what's going on in other countries. So I do think that I try to promote, for instance, some content from like Brazilian creators about Bolsonaro. I did some of that on Twitter right after that happened. But apart from that, I think, it's great when we can, people translate my videos into Portuguese, and I try to encourage that. And other than that, I think that it would be really cool to build more of an international community, absolutely. Because I think that there's, as you say, there's so much commonality between our respective situations. Rob Rulin says, did Manuel have a pleasant holiday? Oh no, forgot about this. Or a set of holidays associated, coinciding with the solstice/annual reset of the Gregorian calendar cycle. No comment. No comment. Yeah, he's doing great. That's my comment. Okay. Eve Howe says, I hate that society tells men and women how they're supposed to dress, what they're supposed to like, and how they're supposed to act. Yet many in the community embrace these differences as their identified gender. For example, my transition was motivated by physical dysphoria, and so I still consider myself socially gender non-conforming in many ways. Yet the only people who have actually encouraged me to be more ladylike are other trans women. Your aesthetic video seems to be getting at the same concept. How can I reconcile disliking gender as a social concept with being transgender? Some trans people who also experience much more physical dysphoria than social dysphoria have begun to try to reclaim the word transsexual as a substitute for transgender, and I'm curious what your thoughts are about that too. Yeah, so I've noticed that trans people have between us a lot of we experience dysphoria in very different ways, and we experience just gender period in very different ways. And I've met people before who seem similar to what you're describing. Like I know a trans woman who she thinks of her transition as essentially a medical condition. Like she's not at home in her the body she was born in. She's fixed that through surgery and hormones, and that's it. She hasn't really done much voice training. She doesn't really dress like a woman. Like it's just like literally she just wanted to change her body and like done. And she doesn't really pass, but she's she just needed to make some changes to her body, and that's like so different from my needs. Because to me it's like so social. It's like it actually it's not my body that's the problem. Almost it's like it's me wanting to other people to perceive me as a woman, and I do that by changing my body, but it's almost like a secondary aim. And yeah, so in a sense it's like I have more social dysphoria and she has more physical dysphoria. As far as I'm concerned, these are both perfectly legitimate conditions, or perfectly legitimate ways of thinking about your transness. I think that there's like a lot of animosity right now towards the attempt to reclaim transsexual, because a lot of people feel, because some people do use transsexual in a like a true scum kind of way, right? Like where they're saying like transsexuals are the only real transgender people and everyone else is just like a glorified cross-dresser or something. That's shit. That is a shitty position. And I think that you know, you should be advised, I guess, that there are people who are like that or who use it like that to say that like their medical view of what transition is like the only legitimate view. But I personally think that trans people should call themselves like whatever works best for them. And if for you transsexual captures that, for you your transness is really a thing between you and your body, it is not about all this like social gender stuff, then go ahead and reclaim it. I think that's fine. Just understand that, like, you know, as I try to understand that there's like other trans people for whom like they have like different needs and different you know, problems, and they'll take different you know, actions in response to that. It's interesting, isn't it, to meet so many trans people as I met and talk to so many trans people as I've met, and just see like how different they all are. Megan Novak says, have you ever been to Texas? If so, where in Texas? If not, would you ever visit Texas, and where in Texas would you like to visit? Merry holidays, Happy New Year, and whatever. We love you. Feeling thankful that I can support you on Patreon. Well, thank you, Megan. I have only been to the airport. I've been to the, what is it? Dallas-Fort Worth Airport, transferring to another flight. But I do have some family in Texas, and lots of people tell me to go to Austin. So I would like to visit Austin someday. I could do an Austin meetup. That would be fun. Okay, Brett Michael Green says, Ms. Points, what is the backstory on your Mao portrait? So I have a brother who travels to China a lot. He speaks fluent Mandarin, and he actually asked me when he was going to China a few years ago, is there any souvenirs you want me to bring you back? And I was like, bring me back like Maoist propaganda was my request. So he was in a restaurant in rural China somewhere, and that portrait, the Mao picture, was on the wall. And I don't know, I guess he asked the people who run the restaurant about it, and they were like, yeah, that thing was owned by our father, who is like a committed Maoist, but like we're really not comfortable with it. And my brother was like, can I just buy it from you? And they were like, yeah, you can have it. So they just gave him this like Mao portrait that had belonged to a old Chinese man who had been a devoted Maoist, and my brother brought it back to me, and that's why I have it. Alexia Maeso, how you doing, girl? Chill question. Favorite meme of 2018? Thanks for everything. See you in 2019. I'm doing good. How are you? Do I have a favorite meme of 2018? I don't know. The first thing that's coming to my mind is mouthfeel, but that's my meme. You don't get to pick your own memes as your favorite meme. What is my favorite meme? I don't know. What are the 2018 memes? I'm trying to think. Nothing's coming to my head. I guess it's the mouthfeel. I guess I'm my favorite person. Yay me. My brain is broken. Josh Simons says, hello Natalie, you're amazing. Never doubt it. What are some good video games you've played recently? I don't really play video games. But I was at my brother's place, and he just got the new Super Smash Brothers, so I played that with them because I did play that growing up. I always play as Link. And that's, I guess that. Ute, or EWT396. Hi Natalie, I hope you had a great holiday season and I hope you have a great new year. My question today is, are we losing the YouTube culture war against the right? With huge people like PewDiePie inviting fucking Ben Shapiro on Meme Review and a bunch of other YouTubers falling down the anti-SJW rabbit hole, it seems like it. How can we turn it around? How do we even measure who is winning? In the end, does it even matter? It's just YouTube. Just wondering what your thoughts are on that. Sorry for technically more than one question. You don't need to answer them all. Just very curious what you think about YouTube's current atmosphere. Thanks. Have a fabulous day. So my impression of things is that things are actually much better than they were when I started. Now maybe that's just a kind of like solipsism on my part in terms of what YouTube is like, because, you know, I remember a year and a half ago, I would make a video and just get like more than 50% downvotes, and just the comments would be just fucking overrun with Nazi shit. And now it's like every video, it's like 95+% likes, and the comments are super positive, and I'm getting way more views than I was back then. So to me, that's a kind of shift, at least a shift centering me. But I do agree that like on the broader YouTube world, like the big channels, PewDiePie and all that kind of stuff, it's pretty bad. And I think that like it's not all PewDiePie bad, but God, is it such a fucking disappointment that PewDiePie, the biggest channel, is such a little shithead. Like, God damn it! Like, all the Generation Z kids, like these little baby children, are like, they're growing up with YouTube, and they're all watching this shit. And there's PewDiePie giving Ben Shapiro the fucking platform. It's so awful. So, I don't know. I think that what I would like to do is try to reach some of the bigger YouTubers. Like, it would be really like, yeah, even within LGBT, like there's these like gay men who who make all the money on LGBT YouTube on like, and like it would be nice if like Shane Dawson, for instance, were to work with a trans person besides Blair White. And I don't know. I know I was talking to Theron about like beauty YouTube, and we were talking about how like men basically have overtaken beauty YouTube, and no one says anything about it because it's only gay men, but like women are kind of like almost like second tier and makeup YouTube right now. And a lot of the people who are on top of the beauty industry are like kind of racist. And that's like bad. And a lot of the people on top of gamer YouTube are like pretty racist and misogynistic. And it would be, I don't know, because like obviously just shouting at them doesn't work because it just makes them double down and shut down. So that might be something for me to start thinking about, is like how to be more approachable when it comes to trying to get maybe some support from some of these bigger creators. I mean, unfortunately, that's going to mean being very impure with who we talk to, right? Because we have to reach out to people who have very problematic pasts. But I think that's maybe worth doing, because wouldn't it be great if instead of just like saying racist shit every once in a while, like the beauty YouTube people were like woke? Wouldn't it be great if like gamer YouTube was not just constantly pandering to like anti-Semites? Wouldn't that be great? It's something to think about. Something I'm thinking about. How can I get to these people? How can I add them? Add them to my little cock army. Okay, feel drunk. I've had one drink. I think that's also like I've been drinking a lot of coffee, and so I'm like, like you know, like the buzzing in your head that you get when you drink too much coffee. I've got that. Okay, I'm getting inefficient here. Okay, Jim Van Wyk. Van Wyk. How many questions do I have left? Some. Hi Natalie, your upgraded costume sets, music, etc. are wonderful, and the extra care and money really shows up on the screen. Makes me happy to be a teeny tiny little part of this via Patreon. I'm glad you guys like that I actually do something with your money instead of just be Sargon and have just a still picture on the screen still. Okay, I wonder if you might speak a bit of any insights you might have about gender and power, especially any new thoughts you've had over the last 2.5 years or so. Keep up the good fight. It's making a difference. Gender and power. So essentially, you're asking me if I have new thoughts about feminism, yeah? Because that's what I take gender and power discussions to be. Do I? Yes. I think my perception is the world treats me pretty differently now than it did 2 years ago. And does that have an effect on how I view things? Somewhat, yes. I mean, I was already pretty feminist before I transitioned, but like, I think that, I don't know. It's that's such a broad topic, gender and power. But I guess I really notice, like, I pay attention to the, like, you know, who is in charge of any given organization. Like things like noticing, for example, that like even the beauty industry and the fashion industry are like totally male dominated, despite the fact that they totally are like there to appeal to, like, women are their like target audience, but it's still run by men. Or like it's like amazing how like even the supposedly female dominated industries are actually just kind of like the people who have power even in those industries are run by men. I remember reading an article about like ballet and how like ballet is a thing where like it's such a female kind of space in a way, but like all the people with money and power in the ballet world are men. And it's like that shit makes makes you really think about just the way that like whatever like the predominant gender power relation is in the society period, like reproduces itself at almost every level and in almost every situation. And it's like, I don't know, it's something I did notice before, but it's like a little sharper now as I've kind of in a way like readjusted my expectations. Like, and in some ways I could stand to be a little more feminist in my personal life, because I've kind of just decided to accept being a little bit more of a supporter kind of role in the life and the world in general as a woman. But like, should I accept that? I don't know. I mean, I don't know. Like, I think that we'll see how I feel about it in a couple years, when the like sudden shock of like readjusting to new social expectations wears off, and I can form a more like, because I'm really still in a kind of adolescent period where I'm figuring out what it means to be a woman. You know, I've only been transitioning for a year and a half, so give me another couple of years, and then I think I'll have a more mature thoughts about feminism than I do right now. At least I hope that I'm being mature enough in this moment to know that I'm not mature in certain ways. Okay, a friend named Steve says, "Hi Natalie, look at sorry guys, stop. I just recently, there's this like survey on Twitter about like how bisexual people cannot sit in chairs, and I literally cannot sit in a chair." Okay, Steve. "Hi Natalie, heart. You are a top shelf speaker, writer, and thinker." Oh, thank you. "And I look forward to telling everyone that I was a super fan way back when. Keep up the good work. You're changing the world a little bit at a time. Oh, my question. Yeah, what's your favorite holiday movie? And while I'm asking silly, unimportant questions, what do you think makes a movie a Christmas movie? 10 times hearts. Maybe I think my favorite is this is the transist possible answer, Tokyo Godfathers, which is a kind of like, it's like the only trans Christmas movie, I guess. I guess otherwise, what do I like? I like I'm not a huge fan of like Christmas movies in general. But I mean the Charlie Brown Christmas special, highly relatable, of course, because it's Charlie Brown's just a relatable miserable bastard. And yes, the Muppet Christmas Carol, I love that actually. I watched that last year and fucking cried. Crying to the Muppets, love that. You know, I guess I could blame it on Michael Caine. I'm crying to Michael Caine. It's a really good movie. Okay. What makes a movie a Christmas movie? That's an eternal debate. It's a philosophical debate. It's an open question. It's so complex. You can't just answer that in a simple answer. Guys, I always get goofy at the end of these streams. I've been talking for a while. Water break. I've been really playing with my hair. This is why I usually wear my hair up, because I wear it down and it's just this the whole time. Okay. Sarah Jane Webster says, "Happy Hacksmiths. Do you do your own press-ons? They're often quite complex. Also, do you have a favorite color?" I used to do them almost all myself. Now I have a fan who has a professional nail business who does most of them for me. Nails for Queens, New York City, or Nails for Queens NYC on Etsy. Go look her up. But yeah, she does most of the ones for me, but I still do some of them because I want to keep my nail skill up to. So I like to be able to do it and then just pay someone else to at this point. But the really complex ones, yeah, she does those for me, and she does an amazing job. So yeah, she's very talented. Go support her if you want your own press-on nails. Okay, Greta Corvitz says, "How to best respond to people who express or just really want to show you videos of anti-outrage culture sentiments. The Bill Burrian, South Park PC principle-ish, you get it, that kind of, oh, stop being so politically correct, offended, etc. rants. By the way, the only person I've seen give some kind of response to Burst, sort of, is Sarah Silverman. It's like the guy's a god or something. Also, thank you for being so great." So I guess I kind of specialize in this, don't I? Because I do videos that are about like very SJWE topics, and I always am thinking as I'm making them, like, how am I going to do this without making a person feel that I'm taking away their free speech with politically correct cockletree? So I think it's like almost every sentence I think about this when I'm running a video, like, you know, basically the way is not to just come at someone and say you're a bad person, but to be like, you know, there's kind of like in the video I'm doing right now, there's a moment where I write it, it's almost like bait for them to want to listen to you. You say like, just in case you're intellectually curious to know about why someone who's different from you might feel differently about a thing than you feel, I guess I'll tell you about it. like, you know what I mean? Make it feel like it was their idea. God, they're such a genius that they thought to bother to check what someone else thinks, you know? And I think that having a style yourself that appeals to that edgy shit, which I think I do, sort of helps. But not everyone's going to want to do that. To me, it's just, it works with my personality. But I don't know. I agree. Those people are hard to talk to. I get it, because like they kind of don't want to listen. They just want to say whatever they say, and their shitty opinions, they justify having them by being like, well, you're just politically correct, and you know what I mean? But of course, that's often just kind of smokescreen for them, just not like examining themselves. It has nothing to do with political correctness or like edginess at all. stupid defense mechanism, a defense against having to change their, having to examine their views. So yeah, as far as advice talking to that, yeah, I would just say like try to work on like framing arguments so that they don't seem like super accusatory. That, at least if you're concerned, if convincing people like that is your goal, that's probably the number one thing. Keeping in mind that even if you're literally not being accusatory, a lot of times people will still read it as accusatory. Dang says, what are your thoughts on Sargon getting banned from Patreon? Also, what do you think about the lick? I'm asking this because I was watching some Adam Neely and I realized that the lick meme fits in pretty nicely with mouthfeel. Sargon getting banned from Patreon? I don't care. I think that you should not use the N-word a bunch of times while platforming white nationalists on your channel. And I guess I see why people worry about like free speech and Patreon, but at the same time, I think that like Sargon is really awful and he really targets individual people and he platforms white nationalists and he says racial slurs and he does all, like, it's so explicit and it's so against their Patreon's own terms of service that like I ain't shedding a tear over him getting banned. Let's put it that way. The lick, I'm vaguely familiar with this meme as like a jazz meme. It does go well with mouthfeel, I agree. Maybe I can work that into a video. Think about it. That could be Adam and I's collab. I can do a collab on the lick and the mouthfeel. I don't know if he'd be down with that, but maybe. Okay, Byron Callan says, how organized do you have to be to run a show like yours? Is it enough to just put a lot of work every month and handle things as they come up? Or do you really have to plan your topic scripts and costumes out months in advance? So I basically have to plan stuff at least 1 month in advance because I need to be ordering stuff. I need to be writing the script. You have to be somewhat organized, and I'm a fairly unorganized person, so I struggle a little bit with it, and it's why my videos are not always on the schedule that I want them to be. That and like, I just am really ambitious with my videos. Like I make really complicated stuff, and it's mostly me doing everything, so it takes a long time. Like a lot of like 12-hour days, work days have gone into any given video, a lot of those days, you know. So it's a lot of organization. I'm really disorganized compared to what I should be, and like I get a lot of business emails that I just don't respond to ever or for months, and like I feel bad about it because it makes me look like an asshole. I really need to hire someone, honestly, to help me like help organize this stuff. Fictitious says, who would your queer role models be if you were a queer teenager today? It seems like other marginalized groups can point to people around them and in their communities who can draw on a collective history of ostracism and humiliation and the historical near-death of their communities and channel that narrative into a sense of purpose. Role models who derive from that sort of group narrative, a mission to be a force for the good, not only of their own community, but for their communities everywhere that need an ally. Do we have that? Yeah, we do. And I think that there's like some degree of division in queer communities right now, especially with regard to trans people and everyone else, especially with, you know, trans people viewed as kind of an annoyance or viewed as an embarrassment or viewed as this kind of burden everyone else has to carry, when in fact it's just because we're the ones who are the most attacked right now, and everyone else has forgotten that 15 years ago there were televised debates, you know, platforming ex-lesbians talking about, you know, how their derangement was cured and they're back on the path of God. So that kind of stuff just doesn't happen so much anymore. But I mean, who are the role models as a trans teenager? I guess again, there's like a lot of like racial variants, but I would say that the TV show Pose, which I know we've talked about on the stream a couple times. I watched all of it now. I find everyone involved with that to be extremely inspiring. I find the sudden prominence of trans women like Jamie Clayton, like Gia Gunn, like a lot of actresses, right? Suddenly getting more attention, Laverne Cox. This kind of visibility is very good. I think, God, there's so I think YouTube, not to be too arrogant, but I think YouTube is actually an immense force for good for trans people. I think that it was for me. I think it is for the generation coming up younger than me. I think having not, because to me, I think, you know, growing up, like famous trans women, they always seemed kind of like, you know, I knew about like Wendy Carlos when I was like 15 or something. I knew about, who else did I know about who was trans? Like, not that many people. I guess that I think that in some ways YouTube might be the biggest thing, because what it shows you is like ordinary trans people, and that makes it much more relatable than just like hearing about these like celebrities, you know? Like, I think that seeing that like someone kind of like you can transition and do it and succeed and be happy, like it makes an immense difference to have that like very accessible vision, and someone who's not just, you know, a famous actress, but someone who's like, it's just some person. I think that's huge, and I hope I know I am contributing a small part to that world now. It's the world that helped me, and it's the world that's now going to help some other younger people. Okay, I need to stop touching my hair. It's such a T-girl behavior. Okay, Jane says, please. Jane says, please expand on the costume inspiration for the chaotic Mother Gaia character from your latest video with the sea. I absolutely loved the fish skeleton on the headpiece, Slay. What was it like putting that look together? All the support, girl. Thanks for your work in 2018. Thank you, Jane. Yes, it was, yeah, that headpiece was done by someone on Etsy, actually, the glitter fish skeleton. Yeah, that was a beautiful little piece. The wig was Wigs and Grace, and then it was, I guess, I had an earlier idea to do like a more complex look with like that fishnet that I had, and I was gonna put like a bunch of like trash like caught in the fishnet to be like the ocean imprisoned by pollution, but I just decided it made it ugly, so I just got rid of it. What was the inspiration? Kind of like a little bit Ursula realness, but not really just Ursula, but I had that like Ursula like snail shell necklace, and I guess like a very kind of like a mermaid look in general. Like that's what I was going for with the colors of the eye makeup and stuff. I had a bunch of other stuff for that costume that I didn't do. Like I had this like scale stencil. I was gonna do some like scales on my face, but I was like, it wasn't gonna I could tell it wasn't really gonna show up. So I would say yeah, the inspiration, the number one inspiration would be kind of like thin Ursula, which I'm not sure the world needs that. So that's why it's not literally Ursula, but like definitely there's that kind of like vibe. And so by proxy, it's kind of a divine look, and it's definitely a divine kind of character, right? Even like the script is very like the obscenity of it is very divine. I think that answers the question. Tom Marino says, Dear Natalie, it is no secret to anyone paying attention to that your channel brand and influence has grown tremendously over the last year, and deservedly so. However, it was not without a sense of glee that I learned you have now overtaken Dr. Jordan Peterson in raw Patron numbers. Well done there. Do you think this is indicative of a larger shift in attitudes within the audience demographics that you share with the aforementioned reactionary? Could it be the pale light of dawn we've been waiting for? Absolutely love your videos, Tom Marino. Thank you. So me surpassing Jordan Peterson on Patreon, I'll admit it made me happy. But the honest reason why that's happened is that he has lost a ton of patrons because of the Sargon thing. So Patreon banned Sargon, and a bunch of Sargon's patrons jumped ship from Patreon, and they're starting their own little Hatreon thing to fund, you know, their free speech thing, which is going to be overtaken by Nazis within a matter of weeks. It's going to be very funny. But so that sort of diminishes the any happiness I would feel with respect to it, because it's because, you know, it's not necessarily just because of the opinion shift, but I do agree that there is an ongoing opinion shift that I think the success of my Jordan Peterson video and the popularity of that, even among like the Jordan Peterson fan demographic, is definitely, I think, a positive sign for me. Like, I do think that it's a sign of things changing a little bit. You know, it's not, nothing ever happens like really suddenly or dramatically. It's just one little thing at a time. Very slowly, you're nudging the discourse in the right direction. Is that happening? Hell yes, it is. Let's keep it up. Sydney Emo says, yes, Emo is my real name. Love that. Hi, Natalie. How do you practice self-care these days? I'd imagine it's easy to get carried away with your work, not to mention all the shitty news. Take care. Yeah, I could stand to be a little better about that than I am. I try to take little breaks. Basically what I do is I will take like 5 days off here and now and then, and like usually spend it with someone else, like a friend. There's a few people in my life who I'm very close to who I will just take time off to go visit them, or they come visit me, and that's basically my self-care. Although that doesn't always work great, because sometimes those little vacations are like they're kind of intense. So I probably could stand to take off a day to just like be with myself and go to a museum and like be calm, and I could stand to do that a little more often. I work a lot, probably a little too much, but I don't know. I love doing this, and I have this kind of fire under me to do it. My voice is starting to go a little bit. Emmy Harris just sends a heart. Thank you, dear. Jennifer Palmer says, oh, we're almost done. Hey, Natalie, what is your favorite, one of your favorite movies? One of mine is Only Lovers Left Alive by Jim Jarmusch. Would recommend it if you like strange vampire romance tales. Take care and Happy New Year. I do like strange vampire romance tales, and I have not seen that. Sounds like I should see that. What's one of my favorite movies? What have I been watching lately? That's a good question. I've been watching a lot of John Waters movies. I know we've already talked about Divine. But yeah, I like basically when I was recovering from these hair grafts, I watched most of John Waters movies. What are my favorites? Serial Mom is probably the best, most approachable. But I love Hairspray. Hairspray is the most approachable. I love Pink Flamingos so much. That's probably my favorite. It is not at all approachable. Don't watch it unless you want to watch true horrifying degeneracy. Which is, I like that kind of stuff, but a lot of people are not super. Pink Flamingos, Female Trouble, those are the non-respectable classics. For the first time this year, I watched Polyester, which was this movie he made with like in the theaters. It was originally accompanied by like scratch and sniff cards, so you can smell along with the movie. I just thought it was the funniest fucking thing. I love that movie. I just like that kind of attitude that those movies have. I think that's like reflected very much in my videos. Although it is quite edgy, but it's like queer edgy. More needs to be said about queer edginess. Why is no one talking about queer edginess? I might do a video adjacent to that. I actually just went to there was a John Waters exhibit at the Baltimore Museum of Art that was fun. I just watched that. Thanks, Jennifer. Joshua Analuk says, hello, Natalie. Love you and your work. You are the way, the truth, and the light. Well, I don't know about that. What popular misconceptions about neuroscience do you find the most annoying? We only use 10% of our brain. Imagine if you could use more than 10% of your brain. That is nonsense. People say that all the time. Really reductionistic left brain versus right brain. Really unscientific male brains and female brains. All those things. Not a fan. Not a fan. Not a fan at all. Andre Damis says, hi Natalie, what do you make of the possibility of Zizek debating Peterson? Is there anything to be gained from such a conversation, or does it only further legitimize Peterson's stake as a serious public intellectual? I have no interest in watching that whatsoever. I think it's a pointless gladiatorial combat that people want to watch for entertainment, not for insight. And I think that I just find the whole prospect of that really depressing and boring. Would I watch it? Yeah, probably. But I would watch it because I would feel like I had to watch it, you know? No, I don't think anything. I don't think anything productive would happen as a result of that. Brainflower says, Natalie, I saw you retweet Earthstrike in support of their action plan. How do you plan on protesting, and what would you encourage your followers to do? Well, first of all, I would guess go follow Earthstrike on Twitter, on Reddit, on whatever you use. And I would say that if there's big protests in DC, I might go to one of those. And I mean, I can't really go and strike because my job is the internet, and me not posting on the internet doesn't really do anything. That's not putting pressure on anyone. But I would say the best thing for people to do is like local organizing, because like striking is something like doing a big nationwide strike. That's actually very difficult to organize. It's much easier to organize it at a local level. So I hope people who know how to do that kind of like get involved and help, because it seems to me that they could use a little help with that. What am I doing? What do I even care? I mean, it's just it's a thing to do, fidgeting with my hands. Yeah, there's the big strikes though, or big protests rather, that I would like to participate in those. Kirki Reza says, hello Nat, happy Aslaneshmas. My question, have you considered involving Justine's character in a debate, for example, against either Tiffany or Abigail? I ask this because it's been hinted that Justine is in the public sphere within the controversy, and I think it would be interesting to see her particular rhetoric challenge people who think the left are all boring and dry moralizers. We got some of that from Adria. She didn't take no shit either, but Justine does take it a step beyond. So it wouldn't be a one-to-one repeat depending on the specific topic, or maybe it's just me. Yeah, I actually really do want to put Justine with someone besides Tabby. I'm actually taking a Tabby hiatus on this channel because I know people love Tabby, but I think there's actually a somewhat bad dynamic that has emerged with me and my channel and my fans centered around Tabby, where I think of Tabby differently than my fans think about Tabby. And that causes us to really be on different pages as far as those videos go. So I think Tabby basically, in a sense, like, she's my most successful character and that she's the most popular, but in a sense, she doesn't work. And I think there needs to be no Tabby for a while. I think that other characters in the dialogue setting could be more informative. Absolutely. I think Adria is a much more successful character in a way than Tabby, because I like Atria. The chap is F in the chat for Tabby. Okay, there's some newer comments. Let me just reload this. Wednesday La Rocha says, no question, I just wanted to be number 69. Congratulations, you're 69. Andre Demis says, oh, one more question. I'm not sure if you heard about the comments made by Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie regarding what she sees as different lived experience between trans women and cis women. But I'm curious if that assertion that the lived experiences are different is inherently transphobic, or if there's a good faith way to go about having that conversation. I vaguely remember this drama, yes. I think that it's obvious that by very nature, trans and cis women have different lived experiences, at least in their life histories, right? At least the different childhood experiences. I think there surely is a way to productively have that conversation, yes. I think that the reason people got mad on that occasion was that Adichie, she said something like, someone asked if she thought trans women were women, I think, and she said, I think trans women are trans women. Which sounds a little like she doesn't, you know what I mean? I think that's what that was about. But I think, yeah, I want to do a video actually. Maybe this will be Justine and Abigail. That's her. I think those two characters. I want to put Abigail with a trans woman who's like a little sharper and more rhetorically savvy, and see if a real conversation can happen. Tad Kyle says, hey Natalie, one of my favorite aspects to your videos is that you seem to initially take both parties seriously, grant good arguments, praise, even if you disagree with it, but ultimately use the actors to supply the viewers with arguments in favor of your position. In your Jordan Peterson video, your initial granting of the good parts of him opened my ears and mind to the genuine arguments you had against him. Because I clicked submit too early, however, second part of the question. However, in your latest video, I didn't see this usual tactic. You had plenty of great arguments for why climate change is real and an issue, but you didn't make the opposing actor a real person. Modern conservatives argue more and more that climate change is real, but that the free market will fix it. Instead of arguing this position, you presented an outdated straw man who didn't believe or care. I still don't know how to effectively counter the free market example, though I feel there is one. Is there any reason you made the video in this direction? It is a new trend for videos. I love your work, but was honestly disappointed to see straw man bashing. Have a good New Year's. So I think in America, that character is not a straw man. I think Marie basically holds the position of the President of the United States, of Ted Cruz, of a number of Republican Congress members. I think it's very much a live position in the United States, not a straw man. Now, is it the strongest conservative position on this? No, it's not. So, I mean, I could have had it as someone who's going to do like, oh, the market will solve this, you know, or something like that. But I don't know. I could have done that, but the video was really more about. To me, that's just like one more thing I could have discussed that I just happened not to. I don't view that as like an entirely separate line of argument, and I don't think that the free market argument is especially very convincing either. Like it's just like, oh, this thing that's destroying the environment, probably the market will fix it later. Like that's not a very convincing argument to me. But again, you're right. It's not in the video. Robert Fitz says, hello from the frigid wastelands of northern New England. It is really cold tonight. Ouch, yeah, I don't miss that. Nice blouse. Is that a Dalmatian on the right sleeve? No Dalmatians, just flowers. Oh, don't answer. Too late, Robert, too late. I can't think of a worthwhile question at the moment, so I'll just ask, what's the story with the poster directly behind you? I can only make out trouble, but can't make out the rest of the title. I can't even tell if those are numbers or some Eastern Asian characters at the bottom, and I can't really make out the figures on each side of the title. I'm intrigued, curious, lost with words to form a worthwhile question. Okay, that's about it. Enjoyed. Until next month. Okay, so that is appropriately enough, because we've been talking about this, is my Japanese John Waters poster. So it's pink flamingos and female trouble with yes Japanese. Mike Bell says, hello from Edmonton, Canada. You may have destroyed Ben Shapiro in the pronouns video, but can you destroy the One Ring? How can I talk our Dark Mother, the Sea, into voting Democrat? Oh, the Dark Mother is lost. She's a force of nature. I would say that she's not a U.S. citizen, though, and so she can't vote, so I think we're good. Okay, guys. Thanks for coming to the stream. I will see you all next month. I've got a new video coming out soon, and I'm going to post... Actually, I'm going to do new video commentaries soon, too. So, I'm going to post on Patreon again in the next few days, just a quick update about my plans and things. And I will talk to you soon. Thank you very much for your support. Mwah.